It's been 6 whole days since President Nicolas Maduro put pen to paper and agreed to keep the peace with Guyana. So far, he seemed to be holding himself accountable for his promise. Well, almost. Although they welcome this newly found peace and quiet. Curious minds want to know, will Venezuela honor the peace agreement made with Guyana last Thursday in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? We analyze the situation and will share what might happen, even though here at the final takeaway, we try to refrain from speculating. We decided there was nothing wrong with doing a little projection into what could happen in the future. You are watching The Final Takeaway, where we analyze information and facts and provide opinions on controversial matters of interest across the globe. We started off this channel focused on the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. We remain committed to keeping you up to date with the developments. Subscribing to this channel is an easy way to stay in the know. Thank you for your support. Share your comments and we just might highlight it as our #1 comment on this video. We will also highlight comments from our community later on in the video. So stay to the end to see if your comment made the cut. Since you're still here, I take it you're interested in what might be Maduro's next move. After all, he makes an interesting and unpredictable antagonist. Every good storyline needs one, and unlike in most movies, many antagonists in real life get away without accountability. That being said, let's get to it. People are asking if Venezuela will honor the peace agreement with Guyana, and we can restructure the question to ask if President Nicolas Maduro will honor his word to keep the peace. One of the most important clauses in the joint peace declaration the country signed is the one where they essentially agreed they will not threaten to use force or use force against one another whatsoever, including regarding the current controversy over Essequibo. All in all, the nations made a commitment to remaining peaceful neighbors. Check out our video, No War, Venezuela versus Guyana, and the Argyle Peace Declaration for the details on the 9 things the countries agreed to. Correct me if my recollection of history is incorrect, but Maduro is the only president in the history of Venezuela who has pushed the boundaries of the border dispute this far. Pun intended. No other Venezuelan head of state openly threatened to annex the Essequibo territory that is at the center of this controversy. No other head of state took steps to prove their intention to conquer Essequibo. For example, asked the citizens to vote for the approval of seizing the territory in question. No other Venezuelan president has encouraged army presence on their border near Essequibo to intimidate Guyana and possibly invade its territory. Given Maduro's track record, a section of the public isn't quite convinced his signing of the Argyle Peace Agreement last week means anything. Many people think Maduro is playing deceptive games and buying time to resume his aggression, which could be far worse than we've seen before. There could still be a potential for war, which no peace-loving person wants. But as I've said in a previous video, war is largely about ego. Yes, it has to do with other things like getting the country's resources. Maduro may have something to prove, and therefore he isn't going to back down. When ego is the driving force, you don't want to give in, give up, or lose, because that makes you, the leader, feel like you failed your people. Of course, the quest to conquer Essequibo is largely driven by greed for Guyana's oil and the other rich natural resources found in Essequibo. Or it might be driven by Maduro's need to regain his political popularity to get re-elected in next year's general election in Venezuela. There is yet another interesting view. Nicolas Maduro may have been inspired by his friend Vladimir Putin, who invaded Ukraine, a smaller and weaker state. Maduro could have convinced himself that if Russia can do this and get away with it, perhaps he just might as well could. His government is reportedly in bed with Russia, and he may have been led to believe that Russia would support him with military equipment and troops. Perhaps he eventually realized that Putin is too busy fighting his own war and didn't want to risk miscalculating his external military capacity as far as Russia being his main ally. In addition to that, the United States announced plans to conduct a joint military drill in Guyana. We believe that was what intimidated and scared Maduro and caused him to back down, at least for now. But whatever is driving him, ego, election next year, oil, wanting to be a copycat of Russia, or being deathly afraid of the US military defending Guyana, he has failed to convince a wide cross-section of local and international observers that he is authentically interested in keeping the peace. It almost seems as if he has some sort of an obsession with going to war. Maduro developed his own army to boost the military force of Venezuela. They are called the Bolivarian Militia of Venezuela, and more loosely called the Maduro Militia. The civilian militia is made up of armed civilians who were handpicked and trained with one goal in mind: to protect Maduro and his government and conduct military exercises as instructed by the current Venezuelan president. The militia's function also includes organizing, equipping, and training people to be ready for combat, for war, for fights, as part of the country's effort to strengthen national security. In 2020, it was announced that Maduro's civilian militia had 3.7 million members, and this is based on a report from Al Jazeera. And some context here. The Guyana Defense Force has approximately 4,000 soldiers. Without troops from their allies, Guyana's army is no match for Maduro's civilian army alone, not forgetting Venezuela's national army, which has approximately more than 100,000 soldiers. Maduro's personal army continues to grow and is more than likely larger as of today. The issue with Maduro's paramilitary force is that it's regarded as an unconstitutional and illegitimate armed force, which will make matters worse if he let out his bad dogs to invade Guyana. And thus, this could happen. This is possible. We cannot rule out anything when we are talking about President Nicolas Maduro. In addition to carrying military weapons, Maduro's civilian army engages in training exercises such as Operation Sovereignty and Peace, Operación Soberanía y Paz. This operation includes training for border protection. Sometime back in 2020, Maduro declared, quote, "The militia is the popular and armed wing of the people and the armed forces." He noted the militia is crucial for the country's security as it faced potential aggression by the United States. As you may know, the U.S. placed sanctions on Venezuela under Maduro's government to get him to cooperate. However, allow me to ask this provocative question. Is it possible that Maduro boosted the national army with his own personal paramilitary force because of an intention to invade Guyana and take Essequibo? News coming out of Caracas claims the civilian military is being trained for border protection. I mean, how can we take Maduro seriously when he demonstrated a passive form of aggression towards Guyana by showing up to the peace talk last week in St. Vincent with a logo of the Venezuelan map plastered on the plane? The said map shows Essequibo as a part of Venezuela. Was that even necessary? And that is no mistake. They could have taken that map off the plane. They could have just covered it up, painted it over, and come and present this show that they were authentically, that's Maduro and his government, authentically interested in peace between Venezuela and Guyana. But no, they left it there. They left the map on the plane, the said map that includes Essequibo, Guyana's territory, in the map to make a point. That's the message he's sending, despite giving the impression he's all for peace. So, we began this episode with this question. Will Venezuela honor the peace agreement with Guyana? Both experts and members of the general public think his appearance, that's Maduro's, in St. Vincent last week to hold peace talks with Guyana is nothing but a hoax. We decided to look at what you, the members of our community, had to say. Here are some of your views and comments. One person said, Maduro is afraid of the next elections next year and needs to create a temporary havoc. May all work out for the betterment and peace throughout the region. Another person said, I'll take everything Maduro says in terms of keeping the peace with a pinch of salt. He has too many traits of megalomaniac. He spends way too much on weapons for a nation whose people are suffering, though I'm sure he keeps his forces well paid and fed to ensure he keeps the population at heel. Someone else said, Maduro, fake handshaking. He's not a trustable man. The next comment reads, Maduro may be a lot of things to a lot of people, but one thing he isn't is stupid. There won't be a war now or in the near future. And finally, one person said, wait until the next few months, then you will see what Maduro will do. Don't say peace talk. There you have it. The community share their thoughts. Here's our final takeaway. We want to be optimistic, but we're speaking about President Maduro here. We predict he will lie low for a bit and allow the tension to die down. Then something is going to trigger him and send him on a fresh round of threats to annex Essequibo. Maybe the mere thought of how much his country could increase its economic growth if it could only stick its claws into Guyana's oil reserves would be triggering enough. If not, his allies may whisper something in his ears to get him into reactivating the border dispute. Something or someone will trigger him. then he's going to say or do something that will be in breach of the Argyle Peace Declaration signed last week between himself and the president of Guyana. It won't be long from now. In fact, in a televised broadcast aired 2 days ago on Venezuela's TV, Maduro, while saying the peace agreement is historical for Venezuela, maintained that the referendum was necessary for the people of Venezuela to decide on what to do about Guayana Esequiba, that's Essequibo in Espanol, in the future. The referendum is one of the main problems that led Guyana to ask the International Court of Justice to intervene. So why, after signing a peace deal with Guyana, Maduro continues to say the referendum was and remains necessary? I don't believe he's demonstrating the level of emotional intelligence required to handle this very delicate situation surrounding Essequibo peacefully. I think he's volatile and in the right circumstances can become unhinged and reignite the threats to invade Guyana. There's a saying that barking dogs don't bite. Maybe Maduro will prove to be an exception. I hope he proves all of his skeptics wrong. If you're new to the Venezuela versus Guyana border disputes and would like to learn more, skip over to our video collection. Thanks for taking the time to visit our channel and for engaging. Remember, you can subscribe and share the videos across your social media platforms. We also have a website which is linked below. Feel free to check it out and read all of our articles and blog. See you in the next video.